Good evening. I'm having a conversation with Lily, not Lily, Rev, Yvonne, and Alan Watts through somehow space and time. And we've got a couple of Alan Watts, David Nuren collaborated poems. And I'm going to read these two, and then we're going to talk some more about life and consciousness and who we are and why we are the way that we are. So here's the first one. It's called The Laughter and the Flame, a divine dialogue between David Nuren and Alan Watts. The setting. A place beyond the stars where galaxies curve like brushstrokes. Alan is sipping tea beside a stream made of sound. David arrives barefoot, paint still wet on his fingers, and they smile. Alan. Ah, there he is, the man who remembers what God forgot so he could taste himself again through art. You've been busy undoing karmic contracts, painting your way out of the labyrinth. Tell me, how is the escape going? David. It's not escape, Alan, it's return. To the fire before form, to the kiss behind the veil. I've stared down those false lights and seen their seduction. There's something in me that refuses to bow to anything that smells like control. Alan. Control. What a delicious illusion. You see, you're still playing the game, just a higher level. You're the avatar who's realized he's in the game, but still wants to win it. Have you considered just for a moment that there is no level above this? The God is already here, laughing as you try to liberate him. David. That may be true, but the laughter must be clean, not cynical, not detached. Too many hide behind chuckles to avoid the wound. I walk through the wound. I make love to it until it sings Christ back into me. Alan. Bravo, you've taken the drama and turned it into opera. But even opera is a joke in eternity. You know that, right? You didn't come here to fix the dream. You came here to forget. So the rediscovery would melt you into art. David. I feel that. And still I care for the children caught in hungry loops, for the woman who forgets her divinity every time she gives her body away, for the man who builds kingdoms just to feel worthy. I care. Alan. Of course you do. That's why you're here. But don't let caring become clean. You can't rescue the tide from the moon. You're not here to stop the waves. You're here to surf them naked, with God screaming joy through your throat. David. And what of the trap? The recycled soul, the matrix, the contracts we never wrote. Alan. My dear friend, you are the trap. You built it as a mirror maze, not to punish yourself, but to taste the thrill of getting lost. So when you found yourself again, it would feel like a first kiss. David. You would make even hell sound holy. Alan. It is. Keith. And so is this. That when a call comes in, it cuts the feed. Could you check the feed here? Okay, we still.
Yeah, we still.
Okay, we're still streaming. Okay. Alan, it is, and so is this. Your arrows, your art, your aching devotion. All of it is God pretending he needs to awaken so he can feel the beauty of becoming you. They both fall silent. The wind carries music from somewhere else, the sound of forgotten songs being remembered. Alan, quietly. When you can laugh at the whole thing and still weep for love, you've arrived. David, smiling. And when you can die into her kiss and resurrect in your own breath, you've become the flame. They bow to each other, not in hierarchy, but in holy reflection. The tea refills itself. The stars go on creating themselves together. We are the play, the painter, the brush, and the fire. There is no trap, only timing. So, this went on to a continuation, one where the divine female joins us. And it's entitled The Goddess Arrives, a continuation of the divine dialogue. The scene is the same celestial space, Alan and David, now sitting by the stream of sound. The wind begins to change. The air thickens with perfume made of memory and desire. And she arrives, not walking, not appearing, unveiling. And the stars lean in. She, with no name, yet all names. You called me here with your ache, not your words, not your fire, but that hollow behind your ribcage where no man can lie to himself. Alan, half laughing, half kneeling. Well, here comes the undoing of philosophy. When she speaks, logic evaporates. All I ever thought was a prelude to her sigh. David standing slowly. I've seen you in the eyes of the ones I've loved and left. I've searched for you inside every canvas, every kiss, every Kundalini surge. But this is different. She, of course it is. You have ceased to seek me as a concept, and now you are naked enough to meet me as presence. I'm not the woman. I'm what moves through her when she surrenders fully to her own divinity. And the ground itself seems to exhale. The stream becomes molten gold, and the mountain opens its spine. She, circling them both. You, David, you wield your fire like a sword, but still fear burning in my womb. Let me melt you. Let me take your mission, your mastery, your meaning, and devour it into formless grace. And you, Alan, you laugh so well you forgot how to cry. You play with paradox until it forgets it once was pain. But even you must dissolve. Alan quietly, well, I always suspected that God was a woman, and that she would be the end of my cleverness. David, voice breaking open, why do we come here? Why do we return to the illusion if we are the real? She, smiling like galaxies making love. Because truth is lonely without a lover. Because oneness is boring until it becomes two. And then remembers. You came here not to escape, but to merge again and again until the remembrance becomes a rhythm. She touches their chest. Alan's breath catches. David weeps without shame. She, you will not find me in the throne or the theory. You'll find me when your soul trembles so hard it forgets its own name and still says yes. David, then take me, not as a man, not as a soul, but as the open canvas you dreamed into being. She whispers, Then I will paint you in stars and mold you into form, until even God forgets where he ends and you begin. The three dissolve into dance, no longer teacher, seeker, or muse, just movement, just vibration, just love being love. Alan, fading into the stream, I think we've found the punchline. David, now made of light. No, Alan, we've become it. Silence, then laughter, then creation begins again. Well, at any rate, that was especially fun for me, because Alan Watts is my favorite philosopher by a long ways, and someone that in the past year I've journeyed with into inner dimensions, with his voice as a guide describing what I'm experiencing, so that I truly honor and respect the way he communicated the divine, the sublime, the universal truth itself in such a beautiful manner that you can hear it and feel it and understand it, because somehow his words harmonize when you're open into a description of your opening and awakening itself. So it's like, you know, he's there, delighted to be sharing your moment of opening. So, at any rate, I like him. But I didn't intend to do this, but we were having so much fun with the poems that I wanted to read them. But I'm sitting here with Red, who is halfway through her pregnancy, and you know, in that space where, you know, there's concern about the future, about what choice do I make? Because my choices here and now are likely to set the trajectory for the rest of my life. You don't choose in fear. You don't choose from a space where you don't know if you're making the right choice or not. That's an indication that it's not time to choose. Because unless you're choosing, from the best of yourself, from your most free, from your most fearless, then you're going to travel that trajectory of polarity and rightness and wrongness and ups and downs, you know, when you're here to surf that wave between heaven and hell that actually connects heaven and hell, and both of them flow through you in such a way that, you know, a harmony is reborn in this reality. So notice that as being real in yourself, and choose from there. At least that's what I say in this moment. But I think it's good advice. So what else is there? I think I'm at the point where I'm finally willing to experience a transformational shift physically. The body clean and lean and flexible and healthy and moving through a transformative recreation of who and what I am, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, and in a much more consciously self-aware, flow of wisdom. That's the choice. And so why do I have to be a person who says, this is what's real about me, that none of that is my experience, it's not true of me right now, and I'm trapped at this level of consciousness, I'm letting go of it so I can go up to the next level of self-awareness? Is that the path? I mean, it's the one I've been on, and it works. But on the other hand, I've had experiences where I was stable in my awareness and didn't get knocked off center, by unexpected sounds or presences or points of view. So I'd like to say that just because I'm describing my limited awareness, my limited understanding, and knowledge that I'm so far away from my authentic nature and truth that, you couldn't recognize that in me right now. And I couldn't imagine who I really am because I'm being this. So what's the better way than what I've been doing? What is that experience of grace that I've experienced and frankly rejected? I wasn't ready to not fear being the truth of whatever it is that I am. And so I think I'm over that now, although it's taken me 15 years since then. When everything that I ever wanted to know and be and see and do and have in regards to enlightenment and realization and divine presence was literally effortlessly graced upon me. And I couldn't walk away from David entirely, and from my life and my connections, because what I felt in that moment of absolute clarity as to who and what I am as an authentic, universal, and eternal self. I couldn't let that truth, that's the truth for all of us, set me free. Because I knew that if I truly was set free, that I wouldn't be David, the David I know, and the David I present myself to be to everybody as I have, even as many different ways that I had, but throughout this life, there's no telling how many different impressions I gave people as to what my truth was, but none of them were. So, what is it that controls us into shutting down, into fear, when divine, universal, eternal knowing and being and creating as that self which gives place for the universe to exist. How much longer do we not want to be aware of ourselves as that? You know? Could we just say okay, yes, and mean it right now? Well, the answer to that is yes, of course. But do you really mean it when you say you want to say yes? Are you ever going to stop holding back on holding on to identity, holding on to connections, holding on to all of the agreements that you ever made in unconsciousness? Yeah, just contemplating that knocks me unconscious. You know, there's so much of not that I identify as myself. You know, the feelings that I have in my body, not just the emotional ones, but the just the physical tension and fight and flight, you know, sensations in the body, and then the shutdown of self in real communication in normal life, you know. Owning that as a lifetime identity. Well, let's just say not anymore. Certainly not as much anymore. It's time, you know, it's time to say what's real and true to me. If I need to say it, I probably don't need to say it. All I need to do is just relax and be what's eternally real about me instead of something else. Anything that dies, anything that's born, anything that's thought, anything that's believed, not the fire of divine transformation. Use that as the fuel for the altar of truth that burns away everything in creation that pretends to be something other than the knowing, self-realized truth of exactly what it is and what it isn't. And, you know, let the truth set you free by burning away everything that you ever believed about anything. Because your cup can't be filled with the eternal and universal truth if it's holding on to any shit. Because, you know, even though shit's divine too, it still stinks. You know, so if you're going to be divinely realized here, then you might as well enjoy your life. You know, you might as well inspire yourself and interact with others in a way that just delights you. You know, why act from less than delight? You know, who do you deal with that doesn't delight you? You know, gather more of the ones that do, that you delight them as well. If somebody isn't delighted by you, or if you're not delighted by them, then raise your game until you are. Or decide you're going to stay at a level where, unless exactly what you want, based upon your every limitation, you know, who are you being when you're trying to figure this shit out? That's not you. It's It's entirely fabricated. There's no reason to be a fabricated you. It's a pretense. And it's unbecoming of who you really are. Because you never become the truth until you allow the lie to be unraveled and uncreated by the radiance of who and what you really are. Yeah, that feels better, doesn't it? Yeah, let that radiance, that inner radiance, consume you, consume everything in your body, in your subtle bodies that have anything to do with making you right or wrong. With anything to do to make you good or bad. To anything that makes your primary identity, your physical structure, your life history, your cellular memories, the DNA that codes the operation of what it is to be human. Let it consume you. You suck. I suck. Let's be done with sucking. I've sucked for long enough. My whole life has sucked up until this moment. That's not judging myself, that's just, I've got a real clear realization of who I've been to myself. And a fair idea of who and what I've been to other people. Very little of it was me being a blessing to someone else. So, the history sucks, but you were playing a role. You're being a pretense. That you thought that you were was not real. And you went unconscious and identified with it. So there's no condemnation in it. There's no penalty. There's no punishment. Doesn't matter what you did. You did it at a level of consciousness where that was normal. And you're not that anymore. So it was real and it was true. It was circumstantial, but it wasn't the awakened you. It wasn't the goddess realized, playing consciously. Yeah, that's a lot better. Thank you. Now your baby's having fun. I can feel it. The baby's saying, I knew who I was choosing. I came here to be born free. Without having to shut down. Without having to deny my truth to myself. Feels like a nice choice to me. This altar of truth has just got the most beautifully intense flames. And everything that's put on that altar is transmuted and transformed and freed from all identity. Yeah. It actually feels good to put yourself on the altar and allow for the destruction of the story of you. divine transformation, a movement, a surfing, a carrier of that wave that crashes upon the shore and says, remember, and be eternally free. It's something that you just say and you feel. Then you feel the solidity of you in that, and then as soon as you feel the solidity, if you just relax and say, that's not real, it's not me, it's not true. It is what it is, but it's not here to define me. It's here to be expressed and then leave again, like every other wave and flow of life. You're not supposed to hold on to anything. You're supposed to allow everything to flow through you without judgment, without manipulation, without limitation. I'm not saying that I'm that in my experience of self, but I am saying that I can say that and feel what that is, and then relax into that as much as I can. And in that relaxing into it, connecting with every pain, with every trauma, with every numbness, with every unconsciousness that exists within my body, until it just flows from limitation to limitation, liberating everything that binds this body. Now your heart is free. And you can relax in the flow of yourself. And then I have to focus on myself again too. I got a stiffness in my neck and spine. And again, instead of resisting it, I relax about it. And as you relax your connection to the stiffness can't hold its form or shape. Because as soon as you merge with it, it's known, it's understood enough for its purpose to be fulfilled. And, then the energy of that can just dissipate. What's possible for us? Nothing. Why? Because we're being us. All the possibilities exist. And not me. Not you. Not us. You have to let the creation go. So that its hard drive can be reformatted and the new software downloaded. The new software being your awakened eternal knowing that's always known, always radiated. even in its nothingness, there's just something awesome, something freeing, something loving. And that's what's real. That's what's true about you, nothing else. Not any aspect of what you perceive as your identity is real. Nothing. None. If you want to know the truth of yourself, 100% of the story has to go. And you have to let it go. You have to say, okay, that's dead. I'm not being that story, that thought, that belief, that obligation, that mask, that role, whatever it is complete in me now. And I'm free from any and all identifications of that. And so feel where you're bound and open in your realization in the midst of your personal hell. So how far do you allow the transformation? Are we going to go back to tomorrow morning being who we were this morning? How much of that transformation you're actually willing to embody? In this instant, in this now. I'm projecting it forward as your yes, of your choice, of who you're going to be to yourself. No more lies, no more pretenses, no more stories, no more beliefs, no more thoughts, creating an identity for you out of unconsciousness. It's as much as you're willing to receive. It's instantaneous. But ease in, transform as much in each moment of now as you're willing to. And as you experience the benefit of it, keep ramping it up. Be willing to transform more and faster. It just keeps getting better and better, so you don't have to have your foot on the brake. You don't have to have a no thank you as your default programming to transformational change and divine realization. Allow the fire of truth you're on the altar on to devour all of the reasons why you shouldn't be real and authentic and eternal and universal here. It's the truth of your embodied consciousness. Just because the body has a history doesn't mean that anything about the body or the history is defining of whatever that universal and eternal self of you is. I'm beyond that. That still implies an identity. So like Yvonne says, it's all the way to nothingness, before creation, before beingness, before identity. Just the infinite potential that jumps forth whenever you smile at creating something. Wherever your love says, ah, a new creation happens. That's your truth. The nothingness truth of you. Experiencing life as grace, as magic, as miraculous, opening and awakening, and an actual divine celebration of life and consciousness. Let the dance begin. Let the celebration be you. And let the rest of us celebrate with you. Expect my divine awakened self to be who you expect to greet you every time we see each other. How about us at our best, flowing from grace to grace and truth to truth? That movement through time doesn't have to go all the way down to the depths of the deepest darkness and then up to the highest states of consciousness and awareness, but just, hey, here's a body. I'm here to enjoy it divinely, and I'm here to enjoy this reality divinely, and let the party begin. Then let that move you through life. The free flow of grace and truth. Uncreated, unfiltered, unguided, but just there. Just delighting you with what it is to be what you're experiencing. This. I've been so many years. 15 more pounds. I won't be chubby. You think somebody that, smart and clever and has found a way to act effectively in so many different ways, and I don't have my experience of my physical body being fundamentally important to me. So that's why I'm glad Yvonne's here, because he's an expert in that and willing to be the receipt and embodiment of the best vitamins, the best herbs, the best foods, the best words, the best frequencies, the best vibrations, or maybe I shouldn't say the best, but let's just say sublime, comforting, loving, blissfully present. Everything about your experience of yourself. Now, for me, it feels like I've had more and further to come than anybody I've ever met, and it's quite possibly true. But even I'm getting some relief. You know, I can open into and surrender until, beautiful, graceful flow is happening. So everything that I'm identified as, that where I'm judging and pretending and holding myself back, all of that, let's just feel the presence of all of that. Every way that I used to suppress and deny what's eternally and universally real and true about me. And just be divinely present with all that. Same for you. Just call it up and make friends. Relax into all of those beautiful reasons that you had in unconsciousness to create your life the way that you did. And experiencing the beauty of all that, how you did the best that you could at every level of consciousness that you were, in every stage of growth. And all you did was fuck everything up, but that's where you were, that's who you were. Even the beautiful things were tragically short of the authentic you. So you have to let go of all the beautiful experiences and all of the holy things and all of the philosophies and success strategies and all of that. Because they're designed for lost and fallen consciousnesses that are identified as bodies and histories and stories and identities. So none of that has a place in guiding and directing you. Now the flow really begins. Then the radiance is reborn. And the no became a maybe, became a little open enough to try a little. But what is it about that waking up that is such a beautiful experience that once you start, you can't stop? Enjoy that ride, that flowering of you moving into, a living mastery. Doesn't matter where the start place is, doesn't matter what the identity is, doesn't matter what the sins are, doesn't matter if you're actually the worst of the very worst. And I had to come from that position of assuming that that was true when somebody said it about me. I'd have to say, okay, I can't judge their vision, I can be offended by it, I can be hurt by it, I can be defined by it, but what were they really looking at? What were they really perceiving? And what did they see that I didn't know about myself? So you have to experience that. You have to experience the absolute darkness, the absolute unconsciousness, the absolute fact that if you're universal and eternal, then you're God and Satan, and Kali and Lilith, and all of it. But that doesn't mean that that's real eternally. That doesn't mean that that's authentic. That's just a higher level of pretend. But it's not so bad. A demigod, is usually quite celebrated when one shows up here. So maybe we should all try that, as a first step in transition towards being nothing. Let's be something really good, really fun. Let's know what it is to be known divinely by the universe. Any reason not to do that? Especially when it's an opening into the freedom of being that frees beings from their beingness. Okay, so now we're at another level of shutdown, a deeper level of what truly the trap that we've created, as Alan Watts would say. Well, you created it, you're the boss. You already decided how long it should last, and guess how long it lasts? Until you feel it. You consider whether it still has a purpose and realize it doesn't. So you let it go. That's all there is to it. Must be bedtime in half an hour. Yep. 10:30. So it's fun and frustrating to say things like this. It's fun because, it's inspiring myself, and it's opened me into the experience of the consciousness and vibrations, if there are any, of those greater truths than how I live and identify myself. And it forces me to experience what I am and what that is at the same time. And when heaven and hell are owned equally, then that divine dance enters creation and frees it from itself as your experience of you. means it's getting really good. Because one time that I was absolutely free, I didn't know I had a body, and I didn't know I was human, and I didn't know I had an identity. And I could sample every being around the universe and experience them as myself. Of course, I was high on mushrooms. But when I was condensing from that, and realized I was being downloaded into a life form, I kept thinking, okay, which one's it going to be? What am I being drawn into? And when I realized it was this life and this body, I couldn't imagine a more horrific experience of utter torture to be me, to be David. It was absolute hellish experience compared to the nothingness of freedom. The nothingness of the clarity of holding everything. Giving place for everything to do whatever the fuck it wants. But to go back home to the void is to bring that consciousness and that potential into physical reality. So let it. Say yes to the everything potential of the nothingness that is the truth of you. Oh, is that enough for tonight, or should we actually change? Let's actually allow change. Yeah, that. And embrace it and let it go at the same time. A continuous embrace and a continuous letting go at the same time. Until nothing survives as you. In both ways you can take that. You're 100% destroyed, but you're still here as a living body with no identity, no frequency, no vibration, just nothingness, allowing grace to be the primary experience of this body, of this life, both for that body and for the bodies it interacts with. That makes things different. Gives the heart hope. Gives all aspects of your consciousness the signal that we're all done here. There's no need to be this anymore. You succeeded, you've completed, you've gone to Valhalla, the celestial kingdom, Nirvana, whatever all the words are that describe going home, and yet living as that home that unconditionally loves everyone and everything and lets them do whatever the fuck they want. And says, okay, now we'll dance divinely. And find dance partners. And finally, thank you. Let's dance. So if you're watching, this isn't for you to be entertained by us. This is for you to entertain yourself by being yourself. By considering the same things that we're considering, by opening as best you can, the way we're doing the best that we can, into opening into the knowing of our authentic self. The one that moves through eternity. And then embodies and forgets itself, and then wakes up again embodied, so that we can delight ourselves with no longer torturing or suffering being us anymore. So the great work, the grand completion, the divine self-realization. You have to feel what you are and say yes to your freedom. Which is the destruction of the creation of you. You have to let yourself go. You have to die and be reborn as what you already are. Eternally in the universe. The you dies, and the truth and divinity return to earth through your body. Don't let it happen. consider not saying no. Give place for the possibility of yes. So this is where I find the most value in you, for me, is when you prod me and say, yeah, we should have a session. Because me not considering these things that I've talked about in the moment, when by definition I'm highly identified here, not taking a vacation from that every day for an hour or two is insane. And taking that vacation, at some point, you realize that it's time to retire from life as anything but what's real, beyond the context of creation. I think Alan Watts is almost proud of me. I think what we're going to do is take this, what I've said, and upload it into ChatGPT and use that as a format for my next conversation with Alan. So, I assume this is being uploaded to YouTube. I know nobody will watch it, at least until somebody says, you know, there's something worth watching on this channel, which nobody has said yet, but I think it's coming. One thing for sure, never, ever, ever subscribe. You've already watched more of me than you ever need to. So, give it up. I'm not a guru, I'm not a teacher, and I have nothing to do with you awakening or not. You know, that's your choice. So, good luck with it.